Hello, hello. I can say hello around Sadie. Hi. It's not Friday, but it's Monday and it's live stream day. Since we're not going to have a live stream this Friday, I thought it'd be good to connect today. So thank you so much for joining. I'll give it a minute for folks to join. Also, there's somebody vacuuming just outside my apartment. So Sadie might get a little nervous about that. But we've got treats here for her just in case. We'll give it a few minutes for people to come and settle. And of course, I already have Sadie hair all over my face. But hello, welcome. It's so good to connect with you. I'm glad we're still able to do this week, even with the holiday here in the United States. I figured it'd be nice to come together still, even though we just hung out on Friday. Why not hang out on Monday? And that way I can wish you a wonderful holiday as well if you are celebrating this week. So, hi. Oh, hey, there are folks here already. Welcome, welcome. Let me know where you're joining from. Looks like Kenny Vixen Music. Good morning, good morning. Thank you. Yes, Sadie's doing well. Uh-oh, guys. The dog upstairs just barked. I spoke too soon. Sadie might freak out a second. Hold on. Okay, I'm so sorry, everyone. We're in full tantrum mode with Sadie. So I'm going to go on mute here for a moment and try. And this is what we do in the Janessa and Sadie household. When the dog upstairs decides to bark and Sadie goes into protect mode, we just keep feeding treats to see if that'll calm her down, which it looks like, okay, we're starting to calm, but I don't think she's going to hang out in my lap for a little bit. She's a little too activated. Yeah, good job, baby. Good job. Yeah, okay. I think we're through it. I think we are through it. You did good. I know it's a lot. So thank you for your patience with that. If you are a dog parent, you probably know. I know what it's like to have a disruption. Gotta love living in an apartment building. But yes, Kenny, thank you so much for asking. Sadie's good. She is definitely the protect dog. Yeah, I know. Letting me know. Okay, we're going to settle. Welcome, everyone here. Oh, also, Tiffany. Oh my gosh, Tiffany. Huge shout out to Tiffany. Tiffany, you are officially the first star level member for the membership on my channel. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. That gives me chills. And I'm just so grateful for your support, which I guess I'll do that little announcement here for folks who may not have seen it yet. I did put out a video earlier today, a little welcome video. I have launched memberships on my channel, which is really exciting. Even in the midst of Mercury retrograde, you know, sometimes we just gotta still keep rolling with our plans and maybe just slow down a little bit. You know, I took this process a little slowly, planning it. We're gonna be rolling things out over time in honor of Mercury retrograde and not jumping into it. But I was so happy to, yes, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. So happy to finally launch membership. So if you're interested in that, you can, if you click on the join button, you'll be able to see what perks are available. There are currently 2 levels of membership for the channel. There's a supporter tier where you get emojis, things like that. And I really wanted to also include early access to content. So actually, if you join today at the level 1 supporter or the level 2 star member, which is what Tiffany did, then you will get early access to the December astrology forecast that's already out there for you. So any member, if you sign up, you'll start getting the early access videos. And then for the level 2, the star member, I'm working on exclusive content for those folks. And don't worry, there's still going to be a lot of free content on my channel. I feel very strongly about that, things like the monthly forecast, you'll get access to that still on our usual time frame. And of course, the new moon videos, the full moon videos, all of that will remain free. I'm also cooking up some things for the star members. So actually 2 videos that I already have in process. I think one of them for like pure astrology content is going to be a horoscopes video for December for each rising sign. That's been a big project. I think that's going to be the longest video will have put out on YouTube. So that'll be a nice little perk for star members. And then I'm also thinking, and actually maybe I'll put out a little poll to members, or I'll just offer it up here for folks who are thinking about joining the membership. For the longest time, I've had this in-depth retrospective analysis of Mercury retrogrades for Blake Lively. And every time Mercury retrograde comes around and I'm putting out Mercury retrograde content, I'm always like, man, is this a time for me to do this? Maybe I finally make that video, because it's going to be a long video. I basically analyze Mercury retrograde for Blake Lively from the December 2022 timeframe all the way up to the present. So it's multiple years. If you're interested in that, I'm thinking that might be a cool little exclusive video for members as well, to do something related to the case. So that's where I'm at currently in development. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tiffany. I'll have to check and see if anyone else has joined so I can give them shout outs after this live stream. But we are going to talk about a few things today. As usual, I need to update the description for this live stream, because I think we will end up talking about the Lively Baldoni lawsuit. Actually, I know we will. I kind of go back and forth between things with prep for live streams. Sometimes we're not sure yet what's happening, right? Because things come out every few days in the case. Even though I have an idea of astrological transits that I'm tracking for the case, we just don't know until we move through it what we can talk about, if that makes sense. So I think for this live stream, I put out more of a thumbnail and title and description focused on Mercury Retrograde Conjunct Venus, which we will talk about in general with the astrology. And I can give you some pointers on how to look at that in your chart. So that's one piece. The other piece is, of course, there are things going on with the case today, including the 3 p.m. Eastern conference call that's open to the public in the Jones v. Abel lawsuit. So I don't know if any of you are planning to join that. I unfortunately am not going to be able to join that. So I'll have to go to my favorite content creators for the lawsuit and get caught up after the fact and see what happens in that conference call. So obviously that's a big event for the case today, even though it's not technically in the Lively v. Wayfair parties, it's very much related to that. So that seems tied to the main transit today, Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus. So we'll tie that to Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's charts, most likely. And that's why I need to write a note here to update the description for this video, because I really like to make sure to include a link to Rosie's Place, which is the nonprofit organization I always like to mention when talking about the lawsuit. They're a nonprofit here in the Boston area, serving women and their loved ones in a variety of situations and circumstances. I think last year, according to their annual report, they served over 12,000 women. So pretty phenomenal organization. So I'll update the description. So if you're watching this on replay, you can check them out and consider donating to them if you would like. And Kenny says you'll be listening to the conference call. Okay. Great. Yeah, I'm always curious how many people actually join that. I don't know. We can't see like on the Microsoft Teams. I wonder if they can see if the lawyers and any other participants can see just how many people from the public are calling in. I do wonder, is it in the tens, the hundreds? I don't know. Could it be more than that? There are a lot of people who are very invested in this. And of course, it's open to the public and it's open to press as well, you know, both types of participants. On that note, let's get into astrology. So as I said, and as you may already know, based on the YouTube shorts I put out yesterday, the main event of astrology for today, Monday, November 24th, is Mercury Retrograde Conjunct Venus in Scorpio. Let me pull up an astrology chart so we can take a look at this. Share screen. And I think we are through the worst of Mercury retrograde. Knock on, I probably shouldn't jinx it. I think we're through the technological difficulties we've been having with live streams, because now with ease, I'm able to share my screen here so you can see the transits. This is an astrology chart based on, more Sadie here, sorry, just a sec. Oof. Based on an astrology chart for New York, which is, you know, I just like to use that because it's the standard location for Eastern time zone USA. And that's how I do all my analysis. And it's just convenient because that translates over into coverage of the Lively and Baldoni case. So you may need to adjust this depending on where you are in the world, but this is for actually, this is set for 3 p.m. Eastern. So this is the exact chart for the conference call that's open to the public in the Jones v. Abel dispute. And I gotta switch over. So you'll see here, we've got Mercury at 22 degrees of Scorpio and Venus at 22 degrees of Scorpio, almost exactly conjunct. And actually, let me see if I can get the time on this, because this is really close. I wonder when this is going exact. Let's see, transiting. I'm pulling up a page here so I can look. So you won't be able to see this for a moment. But Mercury conjunct Venus looks like it is going exact Monday, November 24th, of course, today at 8:51 p.m. Eastern. Ooh, that's interesting. We sometimes have court documents come through very late in the day. I'm intrigued. Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm not sure if there's anything like what outstanding in the case could come through today. But just so you know, the November 23rd to the 24th, this was a pocket of time that I identified for the case where I thought something significant could happen, and I'll show you why. I'd love to do, you know, I don't really eat meat, so I don't really like the analogy of the sausage is made. I'm pretty much vegan, but I'm going to show you how I went about identifying Monday, November 24th as a potentially significant date, so that way you can learn too. If you're going through your own process of learning astrology and trying to figure out, okay, out of all the transits in a month, how do I know what's significant? What should I be paying attention to? But this is an important date because we are obviously still in the Mercury retrograde experience. Mercury will be stationing direct November 29th. So we are just a few days from that. So this is besides the Cazimi when the sun was conjunct Mercury retrograde, today is a very important date. May not be as important. It depends on what's going on in your chart, but today is a very significant day in the whole retrograde story because Mercury retrograde will be conjunct Venus. So that means there's going to be an emphasis on relationships, on resources, on assets, on values, on money. These are all significations of Venus. And I even see sometimes it quite literally come up when there's something going on with women in particular, because Venus is traditionally associated with women, whereas Mars can sometimes be associated with men. Of course, this is an oversimplified understanding of things because gender, we won't get into all that, but gender is more broadly defined than just that. So I'm saying from a traditional astrology perspective, those are some associations. Why is that important? Well, sometimes I find in my own chart as well as in the charts of clients, and I think we've seen it in this case, that sometimes quite literally events will come up with women with a Venus transit, or events will come up with men with a Mars transit. And I think that that is quite striking for today, considering what's going down in the Jones v. Abel dispute, which I will be I will be candid. I am confused by that whole process. I am still in a process of figuring out what exactly is going on in this Jones v. Abel lawsuit. There are many people out there who are way more in the weeds, some people on Reddit, right, who are like all up in the details of that case. And I want to learn more. So that's an intention I'm setting. But what I was going to say is I think what is interesting about this is it is a legal dispute between two women, right? Both of them with ties and relationships to Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Those relationships and those ties are not just social in nature. They are monetary in nature, right? Money, resources, exchanging hands in those relationships. So isn't it interesting, Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus on the same day, where lawyers, also signified by Mercury, are going to be showing up for a conference call, right? Communication, also Mercury. This is what I mean by sometimes there are examples, I think, of astrology that are so striking in even just their literal manifestation within our lives. And you can reflect on this too. This isn't just the case for these people that we're paying attention to with these lawsuits. Depending on where Scorpio is in your chart, you may identify more metaphorical representations or conceptual representations of these energies, of these planets. But I also wanted to highlight that sometimes they are quite literal. And this is interesting, considering we're at this very pressurized point in the retrograde process, and pressure isn't always bad. Now I'm speaking more broadly, not necessarily just about the legal disputes, but pressure in our lives and that scorpionic energy sometimes is what's needed to instigate some sort of change, or even just at a more general level, some type of inquiry process. That's a phrase that I think of with Mercury retrograde. Often we're going back to the past, we're reviewing, we are inquiring. What exactly happened here? What information, what data, what details do I need to take from this review and then recalibrate so I can make potentially maybe not, but potentially different decisions moving forward. So those are just some of my thoughts around Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus. Take a sip of my little espresso. I did make espresso. It is decaf. It's a little too late in the day. If we were doing our usual 11:30 spot for a live stream, I might have made an actual espresso, but we're sticking with decaf. It's almost 2:30 Eastern. But I was just feeling a little treat. Okay. Now, the other thing I would like to add around Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus, it is true that it can bring up past relationships specifically. Makes sense. Retrograde is review. Venus represents relationships. They're not necessarily, or they don't have to be romantic in nature. They could be platonic. They could be familial. They can take a lot of different forms, but that is another interpretation that you may encounter in your life. So what else do I want to say about this chart? Well, now we're in Sagittarius season. How exciting. So you'll see that as we've been going through this Mercury retrograde journey, we're starting to have more energy shift from Scorpio into Sagittarius. As of today, we have the sun at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. We also have Mars at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. And not that long ago, they were in Scorpio. So already we're potentially experiencing, what's the analogy I want to use to describe it? It's almost like, with a retrograde, in particular Mercury retrograde, sometimes it can present as that experience of having one foot on the gas pedal and one foot on the brake at the same time, right? One foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. And I don't know about you, for me too, that's how it's felt when we had a lot more energy, especially in Scorpio. Keep in mind, Scorpio is a fixed sign. So that's part of its energetic quality, is fixed, staying put. Now we're starting to see with the sun and Mars moving into Sagittarius, certainly over the course of this week and for some of the weeks to come, we're going to have more of that mutable, changeable energy come in. So if there is a situation or scenario in your life where you feel like you've had to pause, you've had to slow down, it's maybe deviated from what you expected for the pace or the timeline, I wouldn't be surprised if this Sagittarius, moving more into Sagittarius season and energy, if that starts to shift. We start to take that foot on the brake off a little bit. Now, it won't be entirely off. We still need to get through Scorpio, Mercury moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius. That will complete the Mercury retrograde officially in Scorpio. But then Mercury will need to do its integration in the sign of Sagittarius. So from now through the end of the year, I'll be honest, we're just going to be, I think, going through this process of very slowly gaining momentum. So maybe that offers some reassurance for you, depending on what you're encountering in the Scorpio area of your chart specifically, but also, of course, Sagittarius. And Tiffany says, definitely feeling the hurry up and wait. Oh, energy. That's such a good way of describing it, Tiffany. Yeah. It's so like, hurry up and wait. Okay. Like there's maybe this sense of pressure, of urgency. Oh, but we got to wait. Oh, but this thing shifted. Oh, wait, we have to go back and look at that information. It's a process. That's a great, great way of describing it. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Chris Wildfire. Good to see you. Appreciate everyone being here. So those are my thoughts on I mean, we've just been in it, right? I know for our live streams for a while, it's been so much Mercury retrograde, but that's also because that's one of the main signatures right now. Rest assured, one thing that I find reassuring about astrology, it can help remind us that everything is temporary. What we're moving through now is temporary, for better or for worse. And if we can hang in there in the process, do what we need to do to regulate ourselves emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, that self-regulation, focus on what we can have control or influence over. And for the things we can't, right? Just practicing, practicing the release, practicing the letting go, or at least the letting be. And it's temporary. It will shift. I know this came up in our last live stream just on Friday with some of the timelines with the case and all this information. It seems like, I'll speak for myself. It seems like there's so much information in this case that is still under wraps, that's still sealed, that's still redacted. When are we going to see it? It's coming. I really do believe that it's just the natural energetic timeline we're on. So let's chat then. If there are no questions about that, I'm going to take a peek at the chart here, see if there's anything else to highlight. Well, let me do add in actually one other layer here. If you're looking at your own chart, excuse me, I have a sip of espresso. If you're looking at your own chart and you're reflecting on this Mercury retrograde process in Sagittarius and Scorpio, keep in mind, oh, I hear people in the hallway. We got to give a treat to Sadie. Keep in mind that there's also energetic ties. Maybe at an extreme, we call them dependencies. Yeah, maybe dependencies. Connecting also the Pisces and the Cancer areas of our charts. Because they're, if you're watching the YouTube shorts or following me on TikTok or Instagram for the astrology forecasts and updates in my short form content, you know there's been a lot going on connecting Scorpio, Pisces, and Cancer, the 3 water signs in our charts. And notice that with Mercury in retrograde conjunct Venus, that's forming a trine with Saturn and Pisces. They're still in retrograde today. That's temporary. Saturn's going to station direct. Neptune will station direct. But right now, these 2 planets, and throw in also Jupiter in retrograde in Cancer, these 3 planets are still moving through their retrograde journeys. And I know, I'm so sorry, I can't remember who said it. Someone said it in the live stream on Friday, or maybe I'm mixing it up. Someone said it in the live stream on Friday. Shout out to you. I can't remember your handle. And I think someone also made a comment on a video recently. There are just a lot of planets in retrograde right now. It's not just Mercury. So these dependencies, these connections between the Scorpio area of your chart, the Pisces area of your chart, and the Cancer area of your chart, it's a process. And that can also contribute to that feeling, Tiffany, that you were describing of the hurry up and wait, or the 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake. But that's coming. That's coming. Those shifts as well. And you can ask yourself, what are you noticing between the Scorpio area of your chart, the house that's in? How is that connected to what's going on in the Pisces area of your chart, the Cancer area of your chart? Just to have maybe another dimension of understanding and context, because you may be feeling it more in the Scorpio area of your life. And I wouldn't be surprised, if you start to peel back the layers, you may see those connections too. And ultimately, Jupiter wants to help us expand. Saturn can give us a plan, a structure to execute, and Neptune gives us a vision, something that transcends what we may be able to actually see right now. So there's the potential there between those three signs. It's a matter of time. And also because Mercury's involved, it may be a matter of also working on some limiting beliefs, doing some thought work, doing some journaling, if that seems relevant to your situation. Okay, let's talk about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Let's see. Let's put Justin's chart in the middle first, because as I was just jotting down notes about what's come up on the docket in the last few days. Yes, I hear you. Could you hear Sadie Wolf there? I'll give you a treat. Yes, good job. Good job, baby. There seems to be a lot of reflections of this Mercury retrograde energy for Justin in his chart right now. Blake Lively as well. But what stood out to me was what I'm about to describe to you for Justin. And you let me know if I'm missing something. If there's something else that you've seen or you've heard where you're like, Janessa, we got to add that to the list. And feel free to share that too on the replay if you're watching this on replay. Keep in mind, as we've talked about, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio for Justin is happening in his third house. Here's his third house. So the third house of communication, of local community and culture, travel, family, more so extended family, siblings. These are all themes. And I throw them out there because even though we can only do our analysis based on public information, like I have no idea what's going on with his extended family or his siblings, but I throw that out there just in case you are looking at this and you're trying to learn third house significations as well. But as it pertains to this case that we're following, it seems like that signification of communication is just all over the place. We have the RFAs, which that is way above me to describe. Highly recommend go check out Not Actually Golden, Little Girl Attorney. There was another lawyer that I came across recently. Oh, what is her name? I know Sadie. What is her name? Is it Katie Pope? Is she a lawyer? Just came across her content recently. She was someone that I was thinking, I might want to follow her for breakdowns of the case. These lawyers are going to be able to describe what it means, this RFA process, much better than me. But my layperson understanding is that there's a bunch of material that Blake Lively, I believe, is requesting the court to just admit as authenticated. Kind of like a blanket, broad stroke treatment of these documents. And I think there's been some back and forth between Lively and the Wayfair parties because authentication, as I understand it as a layperson, just like you, disclaimer, it's a big deal. Because if you're going to submit some sort of document or audio recording or text messages or emails, whatever it is, whatever form of communication, even visuals, I don't know if that applies, but I'm guessing, it probably applies to that too, right? Because that was an issue in the Heard v. Depp case. If you're going to submit some sort of material to the court as evidence, I believe there's a process to authenticate that, to say that this is real. And the people who have the authority to authenticate it, I think, have to, correct me if I'm wrong, have to be the people who provide it in some way. But that's not always the person who is submitting it to the court. So the Wayfair parties, and same for Blake Lively, right? They may be submitting documents, communication, and maybe not necessarily be able to truly authenticate that. I think the example I saw the other day was the Claire Ayub audio recording. Like Blake Lively was not authenticating that necessarily. The only person who can really do that is Claire Ayub. That was an example I came across yesterday, for what it's worth. So that is one piece of this theme of communications and what's going to happen with the judge and his order or not there. That would be fascinating if something came through the docket today on that. I don't know if that's possible. But the RFAs, that's a piece. Also, oh, Rose is Wild. Welcome, welcome. Yay. Okay. Thank you for joining. We also, I saw on the docket this question of a privilege log, and the Wayfair parties need to go back. They need to update said privilege log. I think Brian Friedman just submitted a letter to the judge recently asking for clarification on exactly what does that entail. So I haven't done a deep dive there, but a privilege log also feels like a very Mercury retrograde in the third house experience, especially considering Mercury represents lawyers. And from what I understand, a privilege log is documenting communication between parties, including lawyers, and trying to establish some sort of privilege over that communication. So that we'll add that to the list of things to watch, especially this week as we're nearing the end of the Mercury retrograde process, at least in Scorpio, up until when it stations direct. Then we'll be integrating. Then we'll be moving through the shadow. So there's still a lot that could happen after November 29th. What else did I have in my notes? Of course, we have the signal messages that were, auto-deleted. That seems to be the basis for a lot of the evidence spoiling claims from the Lively side. So once again, communication. I know this might be a little bit overkill, but just to give you an idea of how deep this goes right now, I think, as a reflection of Mercury retrograde operating within Justin Baldoni's chart, from what we know, right? Let's see. Also, with the conference call in about 20 minutes, which we will definitely wrap up in time for folks to join that if they want. And then I have an appointment, so I have to get Little Miss Princess out for her next potty break. I know, I see you. Hello, baby. Oh no, is that the dog again? Oh, dear. Hold on. My little protector, my little Aussie protector. We heard another dog in the building. People are moving around a lot today, aren't they? I know. Okay. I think I was saying I have to get her out so I can get to an appointment. So we'll wrap this up soon. But of course, with what we already talked about, I don't need to rehash it that much. But as it pertains to one of the disputes that I think will be discussed today in the conference call with the judge is this issue of the subpoena that Stephanie Jones sent to Katie Case, requesting more information. And I think this pertains to the potential. Now, if you know more about the case, you let me know. You correct me. I'm open to that because I want to be, I acknowledge that my understanding and ability to follow this in the weeds is somewhat limited at times. But I think this may relate to the possibility, let's say that allegedly Katie Case may have been involved in creating some sort of smear websites in her work with Tag and Melissa Nathan. Of course, that's separate from the lively wayfare specific claims. And I think there's a back and forth and arguments being had around, well, how relevant is this to the lively wayfare case? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about all of that and what's going down in the Jones v. Abel issue and the motion to compel Katie case and the subpoena and differences between depositions. I mean, it just seems like there's so much there around communication and getting to the bottom of this. So that's what I've got. Anybody else think of things specific to communication in Justin Baldoni's birth chart? Those are the main things I've identified. So when do these things get resolved? Well, we don't know. I don't know. But we can have some hypotheses around timing and timeline. These are important dates to keep in mind. And you can apply this to your own chart as well. Some of them we've already discussed. Obviously today, Monday, November 24th, we have Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus. That is significant. And actually, let me remove this high again, full screen. And I'm going to pull up my transit reports. So I said I was going to show you a little bit about how the sausage is made. Maybe I can just share my screen. We only have maybe 5 minutes or so, but let me just show you what I look at. Because when I'm doing analysis like the November forecast for Blake Lively, the November forecast for Justin Baldoni, I go through a pretty step-by-step process. And I'm going between looking at astrology charts like the one we just saw and looking at very specific PDF reports showing transits. So this is an example of that, okay? So in these PDF documents, I have 3 of them open right now. I have one that is very specific to transits to Blake Lively's birth chart. I have one that's specific to transits to Justin Baldoni's birth chart. And then I always pay attention to just what are the general transits in the sky. So those are the 3 main inputs, in a sense, for my astrological analysis. And what you're looking at here is the mundane transits. So you'll see, for example, let's go to November 24th. This is what we're talking about today. Mercury conjunct Venus. I know, Sadie, I hear you. We'll go potty soon. Gosh, she's being very vocal today. I know, I see you. Have a treat. Thank you. Now, the next big date for the Mercury retrograde cycle, of course, is going to be November 29th. That seems like a significant date as well, considering Venus will oppose Uranus on that date. Venus will still be in Scorpio. This is before Venus moves into Sagittarius on the next day, on November 30th. And I do wonder how that might harken back, if that's the right use of that word, harken back, to some of the events of today, even. Because Mercury retrograde conjoins Venus, and then Venus is going to have a little conversation on the 29th when Mercury stations direct with Uranus. And Uranus can bring in unexpected, unanticipated developments at an extreme, you know, maybe some shock, little bit of erratic behavior, but also it doesn't have to be that extreme. Sometimes it's just, you know, these unexpected things that come up in relationships or in communication of, oh, well, I didn't anticipate that. Sometimes it's not that complicated, but in a very pressurized litigation process like this one, I do wonder what could come up around them. And what else do I want to call out? Well, then we soon get into December, which, as I said, the December astrology forecast, I was just trying to think. I think that goes out to, because that'll be free, that'll be public. That should go out either the 29th or the 30th. I believe November 29th in the morning. For members, if you sign up, you'll get access to that now. That's already available for members' early access. Let me see. So I don't want to get too much into December. I'm just taking a peek really quick here at the reports for Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni to see. Yeah, this is the reason why I was very curious about November 23rd and 24th, because this is Justin's report here. And the 23rd, he was having the exact nodal square, which has been building for some time for him. And again, since these are public figures, I don't know what else could be going on in his life, but maybe there's something he's navigating there. That's connecting his first house of self, seventh house of partnership, as well as his fourth house of home and private matters, and his 10th house of career and public reputation. So those are the 4 areas of his chart being activated by that nodal square. And then also today, this is why I was curious about this date for him, because Mars is actually, in addition to having that nodal square on the 23rd, Mars is also conjoining his south node, which means it's opposing his north node. And those are specifically in his 4th and 10th houses, 4th house of home and family and private matters, and 10th house of career and public reputation. So some sort of activation there. We'll have to see. Now, another reason why I was very curious about today, we'll have to see how the conference call goes, see if anything else comes through the docket, is because when we move to Blake Lively's chart, her report, her PDF report, the 23rd, she was having the sun in Sagittarius square off with her natal Mars and sun in Virgo in her 2nd house. And also today, the sun is squaring off with her natal Venus. So that's a lot of energy in her Sagittarius 5th house of children, of creativity, creative projects, etc. And then her 2nd house of her own resources. Could there be something else going on in her life? I don't know. These are just all possibilities. But then today you'll see, this is why I was also like, whoa, okay, this is a lot. That's a stacked November 24th for her, with the nodes in the sky squaring off with her natal Saturn, which is also in Sagittarius. And I'm always intrigued with her in this case whenever there's an activation of her natal nodes, because remember, her north node at 2 degrees of Aries is the one that we're tracking for the big Neptune-Saturn conjunction in Aries early next year. And the sun today is forming a trine with that natal north node in Aries. And this point here is important because it brings up synastry, or the connection between Blake Lively's chart and Justin Baldoni's chart. Also today, Mars is conjunct her natal Saturn. So actually, let me show you what this looks like. This is for my astrology nerds. This is for the folks who are like, yeah, you want to get in the weeds. Let's see. And then Alice just saw this comment, evidence against unsealed December 19th. Is it unsealed, or is that when they have to put in final letters or motions regarding that sealing? I'd be curious to see. I haven't looked at their charts yet for December. December 19th, though, is a significant. I just did the astrology forecast. And December 19th, oh gosh, I'm like a little like squirrel. What? Get distracted? Let me go back. December 19th is significant. The solstice is on the 21st. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to watch that date then. I'm not seeing a mundane transit. I'm just peeking at their reports really quick to see if there's anything specific. You know, to be honest, December 19th doesn't show up in the mundane transits or the reports for either of them. So we'll just have to see. We'll have to see what comes through. Okay, now remember, I'll show you this one last thing and we'll wrap it up. Just to help you visualize what this looks like, okay? So we've got like how to start taking these reports and applying them to charts. Because if you recall, let me repeat it because I know I just said a lot of astrology speak. November 24th in particular, I was interested in because there's the mundane transit for everybody, Mercury Retrograde Conjunct Venus. Also, Mars is kind of like a, how would I describe it? Sadie, have a treat. Like a co-activator for these two charts. Because you'll notice here, Mars at 14 degrees of Sagittarius at 3 p.m. in 8 minutes on Monday, November 24th. Notice, this is Justin Baldoni's chart in the middle, Blake Lively's chart around it. This is activating their synastry point, or the connection between his natal south node at 14 degrees in Sagittarius in his 4th house, and her natal Saturn at 14 degrees of Sagittarius, which is actually in her 5th house because she's Leo rising and he's Virgo rising. So there you go. That is, I'm like, I still don't know. We're still going through the day. Will that be reflected in some way with the conference call in a few minutes? Could there be filings on the court docket late tonight? I don't know. The Mercury Retrograde Conjunct Venus is going exact at 8:51 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see. But that gives you an example of how to take some of those reports, some of that information, and then see how it plays out visually. And Alice says, evidence. Oh, sorry. Already, you did another comment. No emotions, just unsealing of evidence. Okay. Well, December 19th sounds like it could be a big day. And as usual, we'll just keep tracking it week to week. I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Shout out to Tiffany, the first star member of the memberships. Let me know if you have any questions about those memberships. Yeah. Oh, I guess the other thing I'll say is live chart readings will come. They will come in a later version or iteration of the memberships once we get through Mercury retrograde. I thought it was like enough for me to test out Mercury retrograde, kind of start it slow this way. And then we'll, you know, because I don't want to put life on hold because of Mercury retrograde, but really, really appreciate you hanging in there for that. That will come. And Kenny, yes, please. Best of luck with the call. Hopefully the technology works out. Take care. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Bye, Kenny. I appreciate you all. Consider donating to Rosie's Place. Also, I do want to say from my heart, I know that this time of year can be difficult for folks heading into the holidays. If you celebrate the holiday, I mean, pretty major holiday in the US this week, but also in general this time of year, I know it can be hard. It can be beautiful. It can be a time to connect with family, connect with loved ones. And also it can bring up a lot for folks because we don't all have the best relationships with our family members or with our loved ones. And some of us don't have as many connections as we would like to have. I know for me in particular, this week, I was just reflecting on one of the first kind of holiday seasons I navigated after my divorce years ago. And I did have family that I could spend some time with, but I just remember the grief of that too. And I don't know. I just wanted to say that for anyone who's here today or watching this on replay, my heart goes out to you too. I'm sending you a huge hug. If for whatever reason you're also encountering maybe some grief this time of year or some sadness. You are not alone. You are loved in this community. And I just want to send so much positive energy your way. I hope you have a wonderful week. I would grab Sadie and say goodbye, but the conference call is about to start, and I got to get her out the door for potty. So thank you. We will not have live stream later this week, but we will see you sometime next week. Thank you. Look forward to connecting again soon.